The thing I hate to see the most on the mountain is people getting absolutely worked on 50-50s. It doesn't matter how athletic you are, if you hit a rail with a funky body position and slip out, you're going to take a ridiculously hard slam, and this makes them very intimidating and very scary. There's a few core principles that pro snowboarders base their 50-50s around that don't only make this a really fun trick and usable in every feature, but also make it incredibly safe. So in this video, we're going to explain what those are so you can spend more time shredding it and hopefully less time eating it. First, let's explain why slams happen on 50-50s, because they all happen for the same reason. And that is, your center of balance is no longer set over your snowboard. So here, his weight slightly shifted to the heels, so as he comes off the rail, he's going and falling backwards, causing this really painful butt slam onto the feature. This one, same issue, chest open, shifting the weight over towards that heel edge, so as he hits the feature, two things happen. First, the board starts rotating to match this open chest position, and second, this position is going to put him extremely heel heavy. So as he goes and slides on the rail, he doesn't have enough weight on it to keep his weight on top of the snowboard, so the legs start slipping out, the upper body stays behind, and you get this really painful slip out motion. And the opposite happens as well. You pop up, get on the rail, and let your upper body come too far forward. This makes it so if you go and slip off the rail this way, you're going to go and be at a risk of tacoing the rail. He saves it here, but imagine this rail is a little bit higher or he slipped out more aggressive, he would have slammed his chest right on it. Both of these ways of falling happen because you go and slip off the rail itself, but it's an underlying body position mistake that makes it so you get hurt if this happens. Slipping off of the side of a rail is a very normal part of the process of getting comfortable with it. So the key to getting really solid rails is making sure that your takeoff is never putting you in a position that if you slide off the rail to the right or to the left that you'll get hurt because of it. Instead, we want to stay balanced enough so when that does happen, because it's going to happen, we're in a strong enough position that we can still go and stay over top of our snowboards and use them as a shield. When I'm doing a rail like this, I don't have the expectation of making it to the end every time, but I'm making sure my upper body's coming forward, hips going back, keeping my center of balance over top of my snowboard. So even if I do slip out left side or right side, I can go with that momentum. The reason why it's so important to maintain bend in the legs and bend in the upper body is because it gives you the ability to move your legs independently to your torso, and that's going to give you all the micro control. So here, I'm maintaining a strong bent position in my legs, popping up and maintaining basically the same exact position throughout the feature, and that lets me go and extend out of it comfortably at the end. So again, at any point here, because I'm in a balanced, strong position, I could go and jump off my back foot to the right or to the left. And that way, if I feel that I'm slipping out, I have the ability to go and dismount the rail and I'm not locked in. Because the biggest misconception I see people have on rails is thinking it's a balancing task. Really, rails, balancing doesn't matter at all. If you get a good enough takeoff and you hit the rail properly, you're locked in from the start. It's when we start trying to reposition, pull our upper body one way or the other, that we start compromising ourselves, and that can lead to some serious slip outs. So whenever we're hitting rails, the goal is to take off in a position that's almost identical to the position we want to be on the rail, and the position we want to be on the rail is basically identical to the position we want to be taking off in. So that way we're making very minimal movements, and the smaller the movements, the more controlled they'll be. But these movements are really important to make sure you're doing the right ones. So let's go and focus what those are so slams like this don't happen to you this winter season. The first extremely important part for every rail is making sure that your tail is maintaining contact with the lip of the jump as long as possible. This will make it so your board naturally angles up over the feature. This will make it so you have to do way less of a pop, and you're already skipping a lot of the rail, so the rail itself is shorter. The way we get this tail pressure isn't through doing an ollie, because we don't want extra height onto the rail. When we go and get height onto the rail, we have to go and catch it, and we need enough room in our legs to absorb it. So if you jump up really high and slam really hard, it's just going to increase the impact for no reason. So we're trying to get on these rails as subtly as possible, what isn't possible with a full scaled ollie. So instead what we want to do is have our hips slightly shifted towards our back foot and pull our upper body forward in correlation. Because if you jump off of a centered position, both feet are going to leave at the same time. But if we shift the hips back, pull the upper body forward, then when we do the same extension, it's going to have us leave back foot first. And by pulling our upper body forward this way, we pop up and the nose naturally comes down. So we're getting the same pressure throughout our tail without needing to go and do a big back and forth snap motion. So whenever we're hitting a rail, the most important thing is having the slight stagger of the hips back, chest forward. So that way, as we go and do our two-footed jump, we're leaving so the tail's making more pressure, and that will naturally put our nose of our snowboard over the feature and make sure that we're maintaining tail pressure as long as possible. The most important thing when popping onto a rail is making sure you don't overextend your legs. This person is overextending their body, and see how it's making them in a straight position? Watch how different this position is to the actual position they want to be riding the rail on. Much more hinged over, much more bent in the legs. So because we're going and fully popping and extending, now they're not holding a constant position. Instead, they have to readjust their leg positioning and upper body angle in order to be in their comfortable 50-50 stance. So here, the body position is completely centered. So as she goes and pops up, both feet are leaving at relatively the same time, and the only way she's able to maintain contact with her tail is through elongating this extension. That's making it so as she lands on the rail, she's in an extremely vertical stance, so she won't have much stability and the ability to move the legs independently to the upper body. And we can really see that she's dead centered in the stance, because as she goes to jump off this feature, both legs are extending, upper body straight. So what happens? The board leaves off the feature at the same time. If this was the rail takeoff, she would be going and missing this much of a takeoff, making the rail so much higher and making the rail so much longer. So if she was on this rail, more bend in the upper body, more bend in the hips, and having the hips slightly shifted to her back foot, she could have done the same motions but would have made way more contact and would have gotten way more control because of it. I want you to pay attention to how much bend is in my legs and see how there's more bend in my back leg than my front leg. That's because my hips are preemptively shifted back, and then I still want to have my center of balance set dead center of my snowboard, so I'm pulling my upper body forward in correlation. So I'm getting this a little bit of contrast, this stagger, and that stagger will make it so as I go and do my two-footed pop, I'm naturally maintaining a lot of tail pressure and getting the full length of the feature. Imagine if I went and took off of a feature right here. Not only would I have to go and try to get over more height because the rail's taller here, but I'm going to have to slide so much more of a rail. But by maintaining the tail contact, the rail's actually shorter because it's on a bit of a downhill slope. And this is letting me go and do a very minimal pop. And that minimal pop is putting me into my perfect upper body position. And here I have a little bit of extra bend in my legs, so I can use a little bit of extension, catch the rail, diminish some of that impact. And then when we look at my actual riding position, upper body pulled forward, hips back, a little bit of bend in the legs, and still a little bit more bend in the back leg than the front leg because the hips are still slightly shifted. We almost always want our hips shifted when riding these features because we almost always want to be leaving off our tail. So this is basically the perfect rail position. Upper body way more over than people would generally think, a lot more bend in the legs, and hips shifted back more. And that's just because it's going to give me a lot of control to shift where my weight is. A really important part for this is the slower you go, the harder rails actually are. For one reason, you have to spend more time on it, less miles per hour, the longer the rail's gonna be because of your speed. But the main reason it's way harder to hit rail slow is because you'll need to pop more, especially on down rails. Because this is a down rail, the further I travel, the more my board will naturally be over it just by maintaining tail contact. But as you go slower, like I'm doing here, I have to do two things. First, I need a more exaggerated angle towards the feature because I have less time to travel the distance. Next, I need to go and pop more. This one, you can see that it's leading to a very extended legs and less hinge in the upper body, so I'm going to need to go and try to readjust slightly. And that's why I look less in control on this feature, and why when I go and pop out, my body dynamics seem a little bit weird. That's why I always recommend adding more bend to your legs and more bend to your upper body than you generally think. It's like if you're starting out and you're going slower, add even more bend with this, because the worst thing you can do is overextend out of your position. Because the worst thing you can do on rails is overextend out of your balance position that you want to be on the rail. because that makes it so if you go and slip off the left side or the right side, you're going to be at serious risk of injury. So we can go and prevent that just by making sure that we have enough range of motion to play with. A little more range of motion also helps because every time you're hitting a rail, if you can, it's good to extend your legs and meet it a little bit. And we never want to be jamming straight legs into impact, so we're going to need enough room on our legs to go and slightly extend them into the feature itself. And that's going to do two things. First, it lets us utilize a little angle controlled. See, this is a round rail, so I'm hitting it slightly on the side to kill sideways momentum. And then next, it's making it so I can go and control my impact a little bit more, so I'm less likely to get bucked out of my strong position. Because for most street style rails, you have to hit them from the side, it's going to create sideways momentum. And if you don't stop it, you're going to be coming up and sliding off the far side. What isn't a big deal for in a strong balanced position, but if you're too tall and extended, that little mistake can lead to a nasty fall. So with all that information out of the way, let's talk about what really matters when doing a 50-50. The first thing is edge approach. We want to take as subtle of a toe edge line as possible. But the further we go on the rail, the more subtle it can be. And to do this, just do a little setup carve and try to make it so you're holding smooth edge pressure and not going and turning too much into the rail. The more you turn into the rail, the more sideways momentum, not good. A slight edge angle is best. The way we want to get this edge angle isn't through leaning forward. If you're leaning towards the rail, then when you jump up, you're going to have leaning momentum carrying you. So we want to hold this little bit of edge pressure by having our weight set over the balls of our feet and squatting into it. So you can see here that even though I'm on toe edge, as I get to the feature itself, it's very close to flat base. We're not digging our toe edge here, we're just trying to hold a light bit of toe pressure right here by the balls of our feet. And that's going to be our jump off and balance point. Then when I'm riding into the rail, I'm not actually extremely worried about having my chest opened or closed. And that's because as you shift your hips back, you'll have a little bit of more control. But we don't want to have our upper body open too much because that's going to make it so our board follows and that can make us zeech. So it's a safe bet to keep your shoulders relatively squared and your hips relatively squared. It doesn't need to be perfect, you don't need to be stiff, but we definitely don't want to be popping and expanding into an open chest position. So maintain a slow angle, maintain good bend in your legs, good bend in your upper body, and then you want to keep your pop as subtle as possible. I'd say never go and jump past 80-85% extension in your legs because that's just going to make it so you don't have enough room for control. Once you're in the air, feeling confident, just go and meet your legs to a feature a little bit, like a 5% extension. And then from this point, you'll even know if you're locked into a rail or you're slipping off one way. And if you are slipping off one way, go with that momentum. And if you're going to the end of a rail, go with that momentum. And all you need to do here is hold that same strong base position that you had on the in run, on the feature, and then when you go and follow that through, it's going to be the perfect position for the landing. Before ever hitting a rail, find your perfect rail position. Find the point where you feel comfortable shifting your hips and moving around and jumping and just feeling like you could go and move anywhere. Like someone could push you and you're solid. That's the position we want to be in. And we want to be in this position not through pushing our knees forward, because as we push our knees forward, it straightens our body. That'll make us more susceptible to needing to balance. So instead, just natural tilt in the upper body, and as you squat lower, you keep that tilt, keeping your weight over the balls of your feet. Then I want you to go and find how low you need to squat to be able to pop and extend while maintaining very close to this position. Because the goal and the key to getting clean 50-50s is finding your balance position, finding your range of motion of squatting down and expanding from it, so when you get on the feature, you now have a full spectrum of usable motion that you can use to pop out, readjust, or rebalance. So find the position that feels comfortable, locked in, and then can also expand 20% lower and 20% taller. And then whenever we're doing rails, we want to be moving within this 40% movement range. And lastly, practice this on the mountain, on bumps, get it dialed absolutely everywhere before bringing it to a street style feature. Even do it onto flat boxes, do it everywhere. So find your position, get comfortable moving within it, and then when you go to tackle your first street style features, you'll be able to approach it with confidence and use the fundamental principles you know, and that's going to make it so you can ride rails like a pro.